I quit the force. After a terrifying paranormal experience, I wasn't the type to believe in the supernatural. Ghosts, demons, they were just stories people told to explain what they couldn't understand. Or so I thought. I worked in law enforcement for 10 years. I've seen things that defy explanation, but nothing, and I mean nothing, compared to what happened that one night. It was enough to make me walk away from a career I dedicated my life to. I was partnered with a guy named Ryan, let's call him that for now, and we were working the night shift, responding to a noise complaint in a quiet neighborhood. It was past midnight, and the streets were completely still. As we pulled up in front of the house, there was no sign of life, no lights, no sounds, just darkness. Ryan knocked on the door. "Police, is anyone home?" A young girl, maybe 9 or 10, answered. She looked fragile, like she hadn't slept in days. "Is your mom or dad here?" Ryan asked. She shook her head. We were about to tell her to keep it down. Maybe she'd just been watching TV too loud. But then we heard it, the unmistakable sound of dishes crashing from inside the house. The noise echoed through the empty space, making my hair stand on end. We looked at the girl. She stood there, wide-eyed, not saying a word. "Anyone else inside?" I asked, but she just shook her head again. Instinct kicked in. Whoever was in that house wasn't supposed to be there. We had to check it out. Ryan stayed outside with the girl while I cautiously entered the house, announcing our presence. "Police, if someone's in here, make yourself known." The house was cold, too cold. The air felt heavy, like something was pressing down on me. I couldn't see much with just my flashlight, but I knew something was off. I slowly made my way toward the kitchen, but there was no one in sight. Yet the broken dishes lay scattered across the floor. That's when I noticed something odd. A strange reflection in the glass of a cabinet door. A figure stood in the reflection, but when I turned around, no one was there. I backed out of the kitchen, returning to the doorway where Ryan and the girl waited. The girl stared at the patrol car parked out front, her eyes fixated on it. Then, out of nowhere, the TV inside flicked on at full volume, blasting static. The noise sent a jolt through me, but Ryan wasn't as shaken. He's a skeptical guy, always has been. He suggested we bring the girl outside for safety while we checked the house. Leaving her in the back seat of the patrol car, we re-entered the house together. The atmosphere felt worse this time, like we were intruding on something we shouldn't have disturbed. We flipped the light switches, but none of them worked. Darkness clung to everything. As we wandered through the house, I kept catching glimpses of someone, no, something, in the mirrors. It was never directly in front of me, always in the reflection, always just out of reach. Ryan said he hadn't seen anything, but I could tell he was on edge. Then came the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, and heading straight toward us. We spun around, weapons drawn, but the hallway was empty. The footsteps kept coming, louder and faster, as if something invisible was charging us. Furniture rattled, lamps flickered. Something was in that house, and it was angry. We ran. We burst out of the front door just as the police siren blared from our patrol car. I rushed to the car, silencing the alarm. My heart raced. Ryan looked pale, his eyes darting back to the house. "You okay?" I asked, trying to stay calm. He shook his head. "It's not the running. It's her." "What do you mean?" "That girl. Look at the family photos. Did you see her in any of them?" I hadn't noticed it before, but when I looked back at the house, he was right. The pictures on the walls, family portraits, vacations. There wasn't a single image of the girl we had just spoken to. The footsteps. "They led outside," Ryan muttered, pointing at the car. And then the siren went off, like something tried to get in. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to dismiss it, but there was no denying what we'd seen. Then Ryan said something that chilled me to my core. "I think she's not alone. I think something's been following her." Ryan did something reckless then. He grabbed a piece of broken mirror and shoved it into my hand. "Look in the reflection," he said. "That's where we'll see it." Against my better judgment, I followed him back inside, shards of glass in hand, reflecting everything around us. Then I saw it. A figure stood behind me, tall, dark, and twisted, its eyes glowing red in the mirror. I felt its cold breath on the back of my neck, and then it struck. Pain ripped through my back as claws tore at my uniform. I collapsed, dropping the glass, my body shaking uncontrollably. Ryan fired a shot into the air, and the creature screeched before disappearing into the darkness. We stumbled out of the house, gasping for breath, but when we reached the patrol car, the girl was gone. No one believed us at the precinct. The cameras had cut out, and there was no evidence of what happened that night. But the missing girl, her name, Elena, was familiar. She'd been reported missing years ago. Her body was never found. That's when I knew I couldn't do this job anymore. I couldn't fight what I couldn't understand. So, I'll leave you with this. If you ever hear strange noises in your home or catch something moving in the corner of your eye, check the mirrors. You might not like what you find.